Hello, welcome back. And today we will discuss about variables and data types in more details. As we know, we have these data types that we had covered in our last session. And let me show you some more data types. Okay. And in this slide, we can see we have the same data types that we had covered in our last session. These are int, long, float, double, but we have some more data types that is byte. So for byte, it would take one byte in our memory, and still it is an integer, but its range is different from the integer. Integer would take 4 bytes, and it would take one byte in our memory, and its range is from 0 to 255. Let's say we want to store the age of a student, and we know that the age would never be a negative number. So why would we use integer? Here comes these data types that would be very handy for our memory optimization, because if we use integer, it would take 4 bytes in our memory, and if we use byte, it would take one byte in our memory, and it's you can see that its range is significantly different from the integer, because of the memory it would take in our RAM. And the other data type is S byte, that would be signed byte, and it would take one byte again, but its range would be from -128 to 127. And the other data type is short, it would take 2 bytes in our memory, and its range is from minus this to this. And we have U short, mean unsigned short integer, that would take 2 bytes, and it would have the range from 0 to this. It would not contain a negative number because it is unsigned. There is a difference between the variable names. Signed means we are using negative number, and by default byte is taking only positive numbers. But in case of short, integer, long, we would be using U prefix to use the unsigned values to store in our variable. The unsigned means we would not have negative values, and signed means we would have negative values. And by default, integer, long would be signed bytes. They would contain negative numbers as well. So these are the data types that we haven't covered in our last session. And you can see that another column, that is suffix, that is we have to use a suffix when we are defining a unsigned integer. Let me show you how. Let me show you how. If we are using unsigned integer, unsigned int would be my int, and it would take my int. And you can see that we are defining it the unsigned integer, and it would have 98, and it can contain -98, but we have an error here because we are using unsigned integer, so we cannot use a negative value to store in that data type. So we have to stick to the positive numbers. But if you want to store the negative numbers as well, you have to use integer. That would be a signed integer and it can contain negative values as well. So next is load and tuple. I have to show you the unsigned integer. I have to use unsigned integer and I have to use do. I can use the suffix to. This is just to add some readability in my code that I am using unsigned value to store in my integer. Let's say I don't want to store it here and I would be using this. I have this integer and I have a number of code lines and I want to use the variable here to assign some value. So by you reading this, I would understand that I am using the unsigned integer. But by hovering on the data type variable, I can also see that this data type is unsigned integer. So it's optional to use a prefix. If you want to use it, it's okay. If you don't want to use it, then it's up to you. Okay, then the suffix we have these data types. You can use them. And the other data type we have is date time, and it would take 8 bytes in our memory, and it would store the date time in that variable. Variable. Okay, then what is next? C sharp typecasting. Okay, what is typecasting? Typecasting, that is, we want to convert one data type variable to another data. Let me show you this. And there are two types of typecasting. One is implicit and one is explicit. Ex- Implicit is automatically performed by our compiler, but explicit, in case of explicit typecasting, we have to do it manually. And I want to describe how automatically typecasting is performed and why it is done automatically, why we need to have explicit typecasting. So let's say we have an integer data type variable and it would contain a value 28 and another data type is long by long and that would I want to assign this value, the value in this variable to the long data type variable. Okay, you can see that I have an integer and I am assigning this variable to my long. And you can see that the both data types are different. But the long data type, it takes 8 bytes in our memory and integer takes 4 bytes in our memory. So the typecasting is possible and compiler did it automatically for us because from lower memory we are going to the higher memory type data. And but if we want to, this is called implicit typecasting because we are converting integer to long data type. But if we want to convert our long into integer, my int equal to my long, we have an error here. As you can see, we have an error here, and the error is cannot implicitly convert data type long to integer because in our memory long takes 8 bytes and we cannot assign it to 4 bytes of memory. So we have to convert it by ourselves by using typecasting and it would, this is called explicit typecasting. We are converting my long data type to integer data type. And there is another way to convert my int equal to, that is convert dot to int 32. 32 is bits and it would be 1 byte contains 8 bits and it would be equal to integer. My log, and that would be this. And now we have another way to convert our data type into another. So we have two types of typecasting. One is implicit, that is done by the compiler automatically, and one is explicit, that we have to convert it by ourselves. Okay, then next is user input. In the last session, we have seen that we can write to the console, but how we can get values from the user? Let's say we can write to the console by using the method console.writeLine. And if I want to read some values from the user and I want the user to enter something here in our console, then we have to use the method that would be console dot read line, and I would store it in a string because it gives us a string value when it reads the value from the console string. What I have done here, I have used the string data type, but I haven't named a variable. So what would be the name? The user input input, and now I would show you what is written in this user input. I would write it to the console again. You enter this, and I want to show the input that user had entered in the console, and I would show this user input again in the console, and let's see what happens. I would make it some more clear, and here I want to use I would say enter your name, and then I don't want to use right line. We use right. Okay, then here it is. But we have written to our console. First, we have written command the console.writeLine, and it would write the future nerd variable, and then again we are writing to console that enter your name, and as you can see that enter your name, and here we can write something to our console. I would say nerd future, and when I hit enter it would stop collecting the keys in our console and would continue to go to the next line and write console.writeLine method. It would be execute this line, and I would press enter, and you can see that entered in a new line because new line right line adds an line break at the end of this text. We can see that in our console, and then we had entered nerd future that would be stored in this variable user input, and we wrote it to the console again, and we can see that nerd future that was our input, and this is our output that we had shown on the console. Okay, let's say we want to get some other values from the user. I would not use right line, I would use right. And now I want to get the age of user. User age, your age is your name is okay. User age, and I would write it to the console. Let's run our program again, and you can see that our console is there, and I would write nerd future, hit enter. Your name is future nerd. Okay, now why don't we have the okay? I don't have written right age. Enter your age, and I would run it again. Now I would write nerd, and now I would enter the age 29, and then press enter. Your age is 29. But why we are getting this age in a string variable? Because we know that the age of a user would be an integer. Because the read line gives us a string after reading the console. If we want to use the integer or byte, we have to convert it to the respective data type. Convert, oops, convert dot to byte, and I would use this method. First, it will read line for us, and then it will convert that string to the specific data type byte, and then we can have this data type as byte. Now run it again. I will remove this from the console first. Now let's run this again, and if I would enter the name future nerd, and your name is future nerd, and then enter the age 18, and that's enter now. Now we have the data type of our age variable as byte. Now if I ask you to get two numbers from a user and show their addition and product, addition and multiplication, how would you do that? Let's do it with me. Enter number one, and I would use this and number one, but it would be integer because I can write a very bigger number, so I have to convert it to the integer 32, and I would say that enter second number and I will write it here. It would be an integer and it would be int 32 and enter second number, enter number 2, and then we would show the addition, subtraction, and multiplication for these two numbers. And I would write here it would be number two, and I would write console dot write line. I would print it in a new line. So addition, I would say sum equal to this, and then I can print it. This would be a right, this would be it, and it would be as I don't want to add a line break at the end of the sum, so I am using right instead of right line. And here I would show number one plus number two. Okay, then the same way I can show the product subtraction like this, and now I will show product as well, product multiplication equal to this, subtraction. What is this? Subtraction. That's okay. I would run it again, and here the console is telling us that enter your number one. I would say 87, 78, and then press enter, and enter number two, that would be 85, press enter, and here again. The sum of these two numbers are this, the subtraction is minus this, and the product or multiplication is this. So in this way, if we are reading from the console, we have to convert it to the respective data type. If we are using another data type instead of the string, okay, please do some practice as well on your end, and I will meet you in the next session. And in the next session, we will discuss about the operators, and that would be arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison, and logical operators. Okay, in the meantime, you can do some practice on your end for data types and variables. Okay, bye bye. Bye bye.